Hello, welcome to another Maths Wizard video. Today we're going to be looking at some simultaneous equations. So first of all, we've got these two simultaneous equations. So I'll just talk about what these are to start with. They're two equations where x and y are essentially the same, hence the word simultaneous. So if, for example, x was 2 in the first equation, it would also be worth 2 in the second equation. So let's have a look at how you solve one. So I'll perhaps just explain this one first, and then you can have a go with another one. So what we have to do is what's known as the elimination method. So we have to eliminate one of our values at the moment, which is going to be the y to start with. And to do that, we subtract the bottom equation from the top equation. Now, sometimes it might be worth swapping them around. If the 2x plus 3y was written above that, you can swap them around. It just means then you're doing 5 take away 2 instead of 2 take away 5. So it kind of eliminates the need for some negative numbers. Okay, so first of all, we've got 5x take away 2x. Well, that'll give you 3x. Now, when we do 3y take away 3y, that gets rid of the y to start with. Okay, so that's why it's called the elimination method. And then here we've got 41 take away 20, which means we're left with 21. So now we know that 3x is 21. We can divide by 3, and that will tell us that x is 7. So we already know x now. So what we can now do is do a bit of substitution. So I'm going to choose this bottom equation here. And if I do 2 times 7, that's 14. So we can write 14 there. And then we can pop it into the equation. So 14 add 3y equals 20. So now we have an equation which we can use a linear equation to work out y. So if we take 14 away, that will tell us that 3y is worth 6. Divide that by 3. And that will tell us that y is 2. We can do a bit of substitution with the top equation if you want to check that that's correct. So 5 times 7 is 35 for the first bit. 3 times 2 gives you 6, and you can see that 35 add 6 does indeed give you 41. So that shows that it's correct because x and y are the same in both equations. Let's have a look at another one then. So pause your video on this one, have a go, and then I'll go through the answer. Okay, so again, a bit of a subtraction then. So we did x take away x. So this time we're eliminating the x. 7y take away 3y will give us 4y. Then we're doing 64 take away 28, and that is going to give us 36 if we take 28 away from 64. Now we've got 4y, which is 36. So if we divide by 4, y will be 9. So y is going to be worth 9. Now we can do a bit of substitution. So if we do that bottom one, 3 times 9 is 27. So we know that x add 27 will give us 28. We can then take 27 away from both sides, and then x will be 1. So if we try it on the top one, we've got 1 there. 7 times 9 does give us 63, and then 63 add 1, as you can see, makes 64. Now, sometimes they do get a little bit more complicated. Now on this one, we've got an addition on the first equation, but a subtraction on the second equation. So we've got to remember our negative number rules here. So we can't subtract because if we take away a negative y, this is worth minus y essentially. If we take away a negative, that becomes an add, remember. So what we do instead is we add them together. It's because when you do, imagine these were numbers. So if you were doing 1 add -1, that would give you 0. So to eliminate the y on this pair of equations, we have to add instead of subtract. Okay, so we've got 5x, add 3x. That will give us 8x. If we then add those together, that will eliminate the y. 11 add 9 gives us 20. So now we know that 8x is 20. We can do 20 divided by 8. And that will tell us that x will equal 2.5. Or you could write 5 over 2 if you wanted to write it as a simplified fraction. Probably best to do it as 2.5 though, I would say, for the substitution afterwards. Okay, so then we've got 3 times 2.5. So that's 7.5. So we've got 7.5 minus y, which will give us 9. So now what we need to do is work out what the difference is between 7.5 and 9. So if we do 9 take away 7.5, that's 1.5. Now 7.5 is lower than 9. So if we're going to subtract anything from it to make 9, we've got to make that a negative number. So y will actually be minus 1.5 for that one. Okay, and let's try it with the top one. So 5 times 2.5, that's going to give us 12.5, I think there. Yeah, that's right. So 12.5 at the top. We're adding y to that to get 11, and as you can see again, the difference between 11 and 12.5 is 1.5. So y would have to be minus 1.5 in that top equation as well. So remember, when you add a negative number to something, it does become a subtraction. Okay. All right. Another very similar example here then. So pause your video, have a go, and then I will talk through the answer. Okay. Again, we've got to do an add because we've got a subtraction in front of the y. So 3x add 2x will give you 5x. We add the y minus y to the positive y. That will give you 0. And then we've got 15.5, add 7. So that's going to give us 22.5. Now we can figure out x. So if we divide that by 5, x will be 4.5. So we know that x is 4.5. We now do a bit of substitution with one of these equations. So 2 times 4.5 is 9. So we can do 9 minus y equals 7. And you can see there, if you take 7 away from 9, that will give you 2. So y is going to be worth 2 on this particular one. So let's pop it in the top. So 3 times 4.5 is going to be 13.5. And you can see the 2 also works with that top equation as well. Right, and final example here, we do need to consider our negative numbers again. Now, this time we've got a minus and a minus. So the thing to remember here is if you subtract a negative number, it's the same as adding a positive. So we do need to do this as a subtraction. So if we do 4x take away x, that'll give us 3x, minus 4y minus 4y, that becomes an add then. Okay, so when you subtract minus 4, it's the same as adding positive 4, so that will take us to 0. And then 24 take away 3 will give us 21. We then divide by 3, X will then be 7. So we know that X is 7. So we can pop that into our bottom equation, perhaps. So we've got 7 minus 4y equals 3. So if we take 7 away from there, we're going to be left with, what's that going to be, minus 4. So minus 4y equals minus 4. So what we've then got to do is divide that by 4, divide that by minus 4. So remember, when you divide a negative by a negative, that will give you a positive. So y will essentially be 1 on this occasion. And you can see that works with the top one as well, because if you've got 4 times 7, that's 28. 4 times 1 is 4, and you can see that 28 take away 4 does give you 24. So just be really careful with your negative number rules on some of these slightly trickier questions, okay?